Coming up next, we have business and immigration law updates. As the world turns, there are often significant changes within business transactions, rules, regulations, and legal matters. To keep us abreast with these movements, Mr. Ramesh Khurana from the Khurana Law Firm will take the lead. The Khurana Law Firm is located in Rockville, Maryland. Along with attorney Khurana in dialogue is Dr. Rajesh Mehra. Together, these two professionals will focus on the significance of priority dates for green card. Let's join them.
As we're talking about these things and that's why you have attorneys like yourself who do this, that it's complex. These things are not just like, filing an application on the internet. And I mean, you can do that too, I guess, but that would be a sort of a long, drawn-out process if you don't understand all these idiosyncrasies that you just mentioned. Now, what is the green card or immigrant visa retrogression? What does that term mean?
Dr. Mehra, this retrogression term is again very important, and this has to be understood by the people who are standing in the queue, because their priority dates are not current, or either these have become current. Mm-hmm. So by retrogression means it goes backwards. Mm-hmm. So not that priority dates move forward, but sometimes because of overutilization or when these are oversubscribed, these might go back.
And what do you mean oversubscribed?
The oversubscription means that, let us say for a particular preference category, 50,000 numbers are available. Mm-hmm. But during that particular month, more than 50,000 applications are made.
Okay.
So demand is more than the supply.
Okay.
So everybody's priority date which became current during the particular month
will move backward.
Because he could not be serviced.
Right.
He could not be serviced. And this visa bulletin, which is issued by the State Department, that is valid only for 1 month.
Oh.
So this is basically is based on how the demand and supply are going to work.
Right.
And if demand is more than the supply,
which is always the case,
most of the time,
right.
Because this demand is coming not only from the service centers here in the United States, demand is also coming from the embassies and consulates worldwide.
Wow.
So it is very difficult to make a real guess,
right,
like how much demand
what
is going
to be the case.
How much demand is going to be. So that's why now at some particular point of time, U.S. State Department would say that we are making priority date current for this particular category, let's say up to January of 2011. Mm-hmm. So there is a flow of applications which would make it overflow.
Got it.
And in addition to that, USCIS has also to decide its own priorities. Mm-hmm. Let's say if elections are coming in the United States. Now more and more applicants would file their applications for naturalizations. Mm-hmm. They would like to become citizens because they like to vote. So number of applications for naturalization goes up. Mm-hmm. So at that point of time, maybe USCIS as a policy matter decides to devote more resources to process naturalization applications. If that happens, now even though priority date is current for the green card applications, but resources are limited, so those applications cannot be processed.
Right, they'd be pushed back, right. So it's really the State Department, or I mean the USCIS, having limited staff to process this massive amount of applications.
Exactly. But at the same time, based on the expected number of applications, they have to fix certain priority dates, because if that is not done,
well, then the thing wouldn't move at all. Right.
The major problem would be that numbers would remain unutilized.
Unutilized, right. Right.
And unless there is a special legislation, so it's very hard to use those numbers which are not being utilized. Like there was AC-21. Mm-hmm. So AC-21 enabled the USCIS to use unspent numbers. Mm-hmm. But so that point has also to be kept in view while they are talking about future priority dates.
Future priority. Now, what's the consequences to the petitioner or the applicant who's been waiting for many years?
Very serious consequences.
Okay.
I will give you an example. In July of 2007, priority dates for all the preference categories under the employment-based category, that became current. Now, with the result, all those applicants or petitioners whose labor certification was done, they filed their adjustment of status applications.
Okay.
Now, of course, they got their what we call is work permits. So, but at the same time, they were unable to process all these applications within a month, and moreover, numbers were not available. As we talked in our last segment,
So it didn't matter, right?
only 140,000 numbers are available in a year. So with the result, they couldn't provide
Move
green
forward,
card numbers.
right.
So those applications which were filed in 2007 are being decided now.
Oh my!
After
So it's
5 years,
years.
after 5 years. So this is called retrogression. So to answer your question, what happens, there are serious consequences. Now let's talk about a person is sitting in India. His priority date becomes current today. The person has to wind up. He
Right.
starts disposing of,
Well, the business, family, money, house, all the
you know, and next thing he hears is that priority date is no longer current.
got pushed.
Maybe
right.
that person has to wait for 4 years,
Right.
5 years, who knows
Life
when the
has
priority
to
date is
start.
going to become current.
Right.
So there are dangerous consequences, and people have got to be very careful. They should not rush in making decision like when the priority date has
Till
become
is
current.
really
Only thing they can do is they can complete their documentation.
Right, right. Well, again, I'm just totally flabbergasted at the complexity. I never realized that it was so complex, but we appreciate you sharing that with us, and we look forward to having you again next time to talk about some very more interesting topics on immigration and business law. Thank you,
you
sir.
very much, Dr. Mehra, for having me here in your studios.
Thank you.
It's always a great pleasure.